All right, we're going to work with a compound interest formula today. So this formula is A is equal to P times 1 plus R divided by N raised to the exponent of N times 2. So let's look at what the parts represent. A is the account balance. That means the amount of money that you have in your account after the interest has been added. So when we're figuring this out, we're going to figure out how much money you have after the interest has been added, your account balance. P, principal. That's your amount that you're starting with for your deposit. R is your rate. And remember, with rate, we have to change it to a decimal before we put it into the formula. N. Now this is a new number that we haven't had before. So for N, this is the number of times that interest is compounded. So it's the number of times that interest is calculated and added. So it's the number of times that interest is compounded. So the number of times that interest is calculated and then it's added. And then T is our time, and it has to be in terms of years. Now, when we're talking about compounded, there are 4 words that we have to be pretty comfortable with. And those 4 words are biannually, quarterly, monthly, and weekly. So biannually. If interest is compounded biannually, that means interest is compounded 2 times a year and added 2 times a year. If interest is compounded quarterly, then that means interest is calculated and added 4 times a year. If your interest is compounded monthly, that means your interest is calculated 12 times and added to your account balance 12 times in a year. And if your interest is compounded weekly, that means 52 times a year it's calculated and added to your account balance. So you'll notice that in all 4 of these cases, our interest is being calculated and added more than just 1 time a year, which is what happens when we have simple interest. All right, let's work with a problem. We're going to be doing number 5 on worksheet 10-2. So the first thing that we're going to do is collect up our information out of that problem. We know that we have $2,380 deposited. We have a 3 1/4%, that's our rate. Percent sign's kind of our hint that that's our rate. It's compounded quarterly. So if it's compounded quarterly, think of how many quarters are in a dollar. That's right. 4 is going to be our N. And it's going to be done for 4 years. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to figure out what our rate is. So our rate, we're going to come over here to our Dr. Pepper chart. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this fraction. So we're going to divide, control, divide 1 and 4, control, enter, and that gives us 0.25. So we know that this can also be written as 3.25%. But we don't want it as a percent, we want it as a decimal. So we're going to move that decimal 2 places to the left, just like we would move two places to the left to get from percent to decimal, and that's going to give us 0.0325. So now we have our rate. So let's go ahead and start plugging in. So A, or our account balance, is going to equal principal, which is our deposit, 2380 times 1 plus, now we're going to put our fraction in, 0.0325. Our N is 4 because it's compounded quarterly, parentheses. We put our N in again, 4 times, and we're compounding for 4 years, so we're going to put that 4 in there. Notice that I have my formula, my substitution step, and now I'm going to go over to my calculator and figure out what the account balance actually is. So I'm going to do 2380 parentheses 1 plus control enter, sorry, should be control divide because I need my fraction in there. So let me go back in and put in my control divide. There's my fraction, 0.0325. My denominator is 4, compounded quarterly. Arrow out of the parentheses and do your caret for your exponent. 4 compounded quarterly times 4, going to happen 4 years. And we're going to have enter. So what I have here is my account balance. This is the amount of money I'm going to have in my account after 4 years, after having interest calculated and added 4 times each year. Free money, $2,708.99. Formula, substitution step, solve. Now, if I want to know how much money in my account is the free money that my bank gave me, I'm going to do a subtraction equation. So I'm going to subtract 2. Actually, let me do this. What am I going to subtract? I'm going to subtract the account balance minus the principal. So the account balance is 2708.99 minus 2380. So I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to do 2708.99 minus 2380 equals. So my interest, I equals 2708.99 minus 2380. Interest equals 32899. And my account balance equaled 2708.99. Now let's take that same exact money and determine simple interest. So the first thing that we're going to do is find our rate. So again, we're going to come over here and we're going to do, we've already done the 1/4 is equal to 0.25. So we already know that this is 3.25%. And we already know how to change that to a decimal, which is 0.0325. And now we're going to go over and take a look at what our formula is going to look like for interest if we are going to do it finding simple interest. So our principal stays the same, 2380. Our rate is 0.0325. Now notice that I don't have to use the compounded quarterly because this is simple interest. Okay, so we don't use that part, but we do use the 4 years. I equals, go back to my calculator, 2380 times 0.0325 times 4, enter. So my interest here is 309 decimal 4, and I have to put my 0 in there. And this is a good thing too that I need to remind you about, is if I have 3 numbers behind this decimal at any time, I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth. Round to the nearest hundredth. So this is written in tenths, so I need to add my 0 to be hundredths. Notice I have my formula, substitution step, solve. But this one I don't have to subtract because I found the interest using the simple interest formula. All right, so now let's look at what we know. When we took the exact same amount, $2,380 at 3 1/4% interest rate for 4 years, and we figured out the simple interest, it was $309.40. But if we compounded interest, that means we earned interest 4 times a year and it got added to our account balance 4 times a year for 4 years. Our interest was $328.99. So which one is more? Compound interest is going to make you more free money. Why? Because you earn interest on interest. What does that mean? Interest is added more than once a year. And now you know how to do compound interest.